Welcome back to Born for This Stories, where we speak the truths no one told us, so you don't have to carry this alone. Today's story reminds us that some parents live inside the hospital walls for longer than they could ever imagine, and still find a way to create laughter, love, and faith in the middle of it all. We are honored to welcome Susie, mom of 3, with her youngest being her brave little heart warrior who was born with hypoplastic left heart syndrome. Susie's life has been defined by resilience, advocacy, and the kind of love that doesn't quit, even after 3 strokes, 10-month hospital stays, and countless nights standing watch at Zayn's bedside.
And then after, we started feeding him, he started having blood in the diapers with his stool. And I questioned it. I said, what is going on? What are you feeding him exactly? It should be just my breast milk. And I had a dream that they were fortifying, and I didn't know what fortifying was. I had a dream that they were adding formula to my breast milk. And I asked the doctor in the rounds that day, and I said, listen, I have a question. Are you doing this? And they said, of course we're doing that. I said, what do you mean, of course? Nobody had this conversation with me. Nobody talked to me about it. Nobody asked my consent. Well, we said we were fortifying. I said, how am I supposed to know what those words mean?
Right.
How am I supposed to know what fortify means? That is so that I never had been so mad. I was like, this is ridiculous. My other son had food allergies. I said we should have had a conversation about what formula you were going to use, if I said yes to a formula. These babies are small, and he lost weight. I said he didn't eat for a month. Of course he lost weight.
Right.
What do you mean? I said, this is not right. And so then it got into this whole thing where we've already been giving it to him, blah, blah, blah. And the blood's just because he's allergic to milk. So then they placed that on his chart. He's allergic to milk. And my other son had been allergic to milk. So I'm like, okay, it's not completely out of the realm. Right. Maybe he is. And so we switched to another formula, but he just continued to have blood in the stool. They told me it wasn't alarming. And that is the start of a lot. We switched between a million formulas. My breast milk dried up. I really couldn't pump anything. I remember having a roommate, and she'd just pump these huge bottles. I had nothing. And so it got to the point where I had to go to formula because I couldn't make anything. So we went home on a G-tube feeding, and at a month and a week, he got to go home. We went on this home monitoring program where they check in weekly, see how they're doing. You have to be careful of their oxygen because they sit low, in the 70s, and that's their baseline. You have to put the oximeter on them. You're doing the G-tube feeds, and they kind of rush you out the door, oh, we're going to coddle you. And then we're just going to say, oh, because that's kind of once you move from the ICU to the ACCU, they don't really give you a whole lot. They're now you're going to give meds. Now you're going to feed. Now you're going to do all this stuff, and you're holy moly. And then it's very quickly that you're kind of sent home. Sure. And so we went home with the bloody stools and all that, and they just kept telling me, oh, it's just he's healing, and it's the formulas and blah, blah, blah. So he just puked all the time. He would choke on the throw up, aspirate, it was nonstop. So I would always bring him back and be something's wrong with him. This is not right. And they would kind of shush me. We got hospitalized every other week, it felt like. And they would just kind of put a temporary Band-Aid on it. Oh, here's omeprazole, here's simethicone. I gave him so many medications before I even knew what half of them were. Yeah. And then we would check in with our cardiologist and our PCP at home, but they were so scared of him that they would be go to Boston. So that it's that's our big joke now to this day is everyone, even our PCP now, they're in Boston, and they're you should go to the ER because everyone's just terrified of him. Oh. And at 3 months old, the cardiologist said, yeah, I think he's ready for his next stage. I don't think he's doing well with this anatomy. He's not getting enough blood flow to the gut. Maybe that's why he's bleeding. He's not getting enough blood flow. I'm okay. I guess so. And like, he's starting to do okay. He's doing baby milestones. We're hitting things. He's playing with things. And now I have to put him through another surgery.
Yeah.
So my husband was allowed to finally come to the hospital, but wearing our masks. We gave our little guy on December 9th, 2020, we gave him for another surgery. It was a little bit quicker. I think it was like 12 hours, but they said it went good. They closed his chest and they were going to try to extubate him like the next day. So we were like, okay, this is moving faster than last time. Like, this is great. All great things. And there were some issues, like we had a couple issues with the nurses in the ICU, just like not paying attention, and like the withdrawals of him. He had to like come off all these like fentanyl and crazy things like that no baby should ever be on.
Right.
And you could just see under his eyes, there's like, they're sunken in. He's bulging. Like, it was just like devastating to watch, like your baby weaning off of like hardcore drugs, you know?
Yeah.
And
I also feel like that should be told to the parent
100%.
and prepped, because that's intense. It's really
so intense.
Yeah.
And they go fast because they know these kids won't remember it, but you remember it.
But you remember.
And I've had to many times tell them to slow down on the weans. So but yeah, that was like the start too. So then they quickly got us out of the ICU back to the floor, and like, he looks so good. And I'm like, he wouldn't stop crying. He cried from the moment he woke up to the moment he went to sleep, naps, everything, just crying and crying. I had to stand there just rocking him. And I'm like, something's wrong with him. And they're like, nope, he has a new anatomy. Like, they reroute the blood to kind of go through the head to kind of gravity to take the blood.
Yeah.
And no one would listen to me. I'm like, something is wrong. Nope. He looks fine. We'll do an x-ray. He just needs more chest PT. He needs more. So like, under all this, the GI stuff is still like, nobody's paying attention to it because we have bigger issues, you know? And they're looking at him. He's fine. He's fine. I got in a fight with one of the nurse practitioners because I was like, he needs more pain medicine. Like, he is very uncomfortable. Like, he could barely cry. His vocal cords were paralyzed and he's just miserable. And she's like, I'll give him ibuprofen. I said, he can't have ibuprofen because it makes his stool bleed more. And I said, he had a stroke like a couple months ago. I don't really feel like he should be on ibuprofen. And this is when I started to learn my voice. And she's like, nope, I've never seen that affect anything. Immediately after she gave him ibuprofen, he started pooping more blood. I'm like, we're done with that. Like, give him something stronger, like, do something for him. So I finally said, okay, the x-rays aren't working. Find out what is going on with my baby. Christmas Eve night, so we've been there the whole month. Christmas Eve night, they say, we'll do an ultrasound. They find a huge pocket of chylous fluid in his chest. That's why he's been crying so hard, is he's so uncomfortable. He can barely breathe. He can't like take a deep breath. So we get emergently sent on Christmas night to the ICU, and they put a chest tube in. So they had to sedate him again, intubate him again. And he's been crying for a whole entire month. So everything is swollen. Everything is horrible. And I'm like, thank you for finally listening to me. So the chest tube they put him on like this fat-free diet. They put him on another formula, and they take away all the fat. And we put him back on like TPN and lipids. So like most of his life, he's kind of been on TPN and lipids. And they decide to, take away the lipids because that's fat and just do the TPN. And then I think at one point they switched the formula, but the chest tubes kept clogging. So every time it would clog, they'd be like, oh, he's not putting out any more fluid. Maybe it's better. And they'd take the tube out, and then he'd accumulate all the fluid again. And I'm like, this is a problem. Like, you guys need to do something better. So we sat in that ICU for like almost 2 months with just changing out chest tubes. And every time they're reintubating my little baby. And I'm like, this is bad. So I ended up sending a message to CHOP, their lymphatic program. And I said, please tell me you can help my child, because no one here is listening to me. They're doing the same thing. It's a definition of insanity. Wow. They are repeating the same thing over and over again, hoping for a different outcome. Like, this feels crazy. And they're making me take care of yourself. Why don't you take a day out of the hospital? I said, you're not taking care of my baby like you're supposed to. And so CHOP says, why haven't you done a lymphoangiogram? Why haven't you done this, this, and this? And the reason was everyone was scared of him. So they end up doing a lymphoangiogram, and they have to like stick these needles through the belly. And they were scared of making his belly worse because we knew his belly was bad. So they stick the needles through the belly. They have to put the dye into the lymphatic system, and then they have to watch where it goes.
Yeah.
And it was going straight to this leak into his chest. And they wanted to shut down his whole lymph duct, like the main duct. And that's what they do. And I said, I've already done my research, and that shuts down. They won't be eligible for his last surgery, the Fontan. He'll fail it, and then he'll be transplant. And they said, well, that's like what we have to offer you. So they had ended up asking one doctor in IR if he felt comfortable trying to go in and just get that one little spot that was leaking. And he looked at me and he's like, I can do it. And I said, you promise me that if you can't, you come out. You don't do what they're telling you to do. He said, I promise I'm going to get it. And his name's Rush Tuning. And I hope one day he hears how much I love him, because he moved off to California, but like an angel of a man. And he did it. And my son got better like instantly. And we got out of the ICU. He did it. And he just like was so confident, and like it just meant so much to me. And like even after that, like he just would help us with like line replacements and tube replacements, and he like always just took my word, and he believed me, and it was like just in those moments when no one's listening to you and you have that one person to be like, nope, I believe you. And it just felt like so comforting, and like to this day I just thank God for him, because it was like one of those things you needed in that moment when you were starting to lose hope in everybody.
Yes. Yeah.
And if I'm like going on too much,
no, you're doing
amazing.
And I know that you had called yourself like nurse without the title, but I think those are such powerful words, especially like hearing your story and what you went through and how you were advocating for your son. And like, you are his nurse, like you are the one spending 24/7 with him, helping him. And then you are the one figuring out that like something is wrong with him. Like, pay attention. Something is wrong. If you can't trust inside that the medical system is going to take care of your child when he's there in ICU because they're too scared to touch him or whatever, like that's a problem.
Yeah.
Where else do you go?
Exactly.
What do you do?
That's why I was like, I have to call another hospital, because like I know that Boston's the best, but like clearly you're not the best at this,
Right.
And so that was a huge turning point of me being like, oh, I have a lot of power here.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thankfully you gain that power, you knew, because that could be obviously a big decision maker in how Zayn is doing and his recovery and the procedures he needs. And it also like just to validate you, like it just breaks my heart that like he suffered with that for so long. It was in so much pain and you were trying and they just were pushing it to the wayside. That's tough. I'm sorry.
It is. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, he did start to get better after that. I think we went, after the ICU, we went back to the ACCU, and they kind of said, all right, like, I think we were there for like 6 months. And then we started to focus on GI, and everyone's like starting to see that there's an alarming amount of blood in his stool. And everyone just like, we were doing transfusions a lot, and just we were trying to be careful of that, because if he ever did need a transplant, we don't want him to have the antibodies, but he would clearly need it. And we just couldn't find a good GI doctor. It was just always very painful with GI. They would be kind of like, it's fine, or whatever. It was just always a problem. And then he could never get over a certain rate. They'd be like, he needs to reach this goal, and I'd be like, he can't. He will just profusely throw up. And I've met parents who are totally fine with their kids throwing up because they're still getting what they need. But watching him like writhing and just like losing his mind, I'm like, I'm not okay with this. Like, it just doesn't feel like something you should ever be okay with.
Right.
And just like seeing how comfortable he was on TPN and lipids, he didn't really know what it was like to be full. He knew what it felt like to be like okay, but you're putting all this food in his belly, he's just vomiting. Yeah. So then I think it was like right after that, we got discharged again, and I met with a GI doctor, and it was like a Wednesday. I met with her, and I said, something's really wrong. Like, there's a lot of blood and mucus in his stool. And she's like, no, he's fine. And she looked at it and she told me he was fine. And I said, like not tolerating his feeds. He is just vomiting nonstop. He is very uncomfortable. And she said, nope, he's fine. So then that Friday, I saw his cardiologist and I said, listen to me, please. Something's wrong with him. Like something is very wrong. And he said, the GI said everything's okay. So I have to believe her. I said, can you just do me one favor? Put in for some labs. I'll go upstairs, get those labs, test for electrolyte imbalance, something. I said, he is not getting what he needs, but please do his blood work and then call me. He said, after the blood work, go home. So I got home. I just made it to my stepdaughter's graduation from high school. And Zayn was like, I had to shut off his feeds because he was not tolerating them. And he looked just so pale, big bags under his eyes. And he was just like, not really himself. They called me and they're like, get back to the hospital right now. He is very, very sick. And I was like, I told you. Yeah. And so we got there. He had severe pneumatosis, which is the neck. And his intestines were like necrotic. And it was like really, really bad. And it was like when, that moment I told that GI center a message and I said, you are never to see my son ever again. I don't care if you're an attending while we're inpatient. I never want to see you ever again. And I said, thank you to Dr. Brown, even though he didn't feel like he should do anything. That was his cardiologist. He's like, well, you were right. And that's like kind of the moral of Zayn's whole story is you were right. Mm-hmm. And so we were in the hospital for over 200 days trying to figure out how to feed Zayn. And he got pneumatosis many, many times. But thankfully, we never lost any bowel, but eventually settled in. We've done so many genetic tests, so many scopes, so many, you name it, we've done it for Zayn, like check for Hirschsprungs, everything that you could do to check for why Zayn is the way he is. Like we actually got to a point where there was like a stop sign that we had in his room. And it was like green, we're okay with this much blood. Yellow, okay, let's start to question things. Red, because he had already done all those things. So like that's how bad it was that we were, even when he wasn't getting feeds, because we have to give meds still because he needs his meds, that he still pooping that much blood. Wow. And so finally the home PN, which is the home temp, the TPN, I don't even know how to say the whole thing, but they came to me and they're like, we think you should go home with a central line and give him this because I don't think he's ever going to feed. I mean, we can keep trying, but I think that he needs this to keep growing. And I said, I am absolutely not going home with a central line. There's no way in heck I'm doing that, and I won't. And so we ended up staying there for another 2 months because we kept trying to feed him, but it just kept the same outcome, pneumatosis again and antibiotics and all the things. Oh. And they said, I really think it's time. So I put my big girl pants on. I became a unregistered nurse, and I can do central line care with my eyes closed now. But it was really hard, but I did the sim lab and did all the teaching. And in New Hampshire, we had no nursing. We had like a VNA that would come out maybe once a week and help me do like a dressing change. But other than that, like the home PN is great because they teach you how to do everything. Like you learn how to do a dressing change. You can put up the TPN, all that stuff. So I was scared, but I did it. And that was when Zayn was a year old. We went home on TPN and he's been on it ever since. But we still tried. During that stay, we had found Zayn's GI doctor that we have now. And she is an actual angel that was sent to us because she listens, she cares, she does everything she can for him. And she figured out Zayn's GI issues. She knows why now because she pushed and it took till this year to figure it out. But like she never stopped and she always believed me and she always took my word. And I lost my mind this year because I'm just so grateful that we found her because we didn't get a good answer, but we got an answer. And that's like the one thing with Zayn is we never get answers ever. Yeah. So that's so like just breakthrough. It wasn't a good answer, but it was one.
Yeah. You so needed her too.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Man. And that was like just to wrap up the year.
Yeah. Well, this year was really hard in the sense of we got an answer, but that also stopped all the rest of Zayn's. Now it's just about his quality of life. We have no more options. This diagnosis of pseudo-obstruction stopped, and it's with his brain. Zayn ended up, just quickly, Zayn had 2 more strokes in 2022 that took away his everything. And so that was a 300, it was a year stay in the hospital, and we learned how to do everything again. But after that, like, he is okay. We ended up moving to Massachusetts. We got nursing, and then we got this answer this year, which has been like really heartbreaking because now we don't really have any more options for him. But like, he's thriving in all other sense, which is like really amazing to watch. And his siblings have had him home for 2 years now, which like I felt devastated. I couldn't be there for my older kids because I needed to be there for Zayn. And they understand. They are amazing. They could resent Zayn for everything, but they don't. They love him more than anything. They love me more than anything. And they're just like the most amazing kids. Like, so that is just crazy.
I love that though. It's needed in these moments for sure. Like, you need a break. You need a win,
Yep.
So I'm glad that they are there to support you, to support Zayn. Um, what what is life like now?
It really is great. It's been like so awesome to see him be a normal kid. Last year around this time, we brought him on his Make-A-Wish to Disney, which is like something we never probably could have done without Make-A-Wish. And like, just watching him go on rides and be smiling. He loved the characters, and it was like, we didn't see Zayn smile for a long time. I actually questioned everything. Why am I making him be here? Like, did I do too much? Did I go through too many extremes to keep him here? Like, without all this stuff, he wouldn't be here. So maybe I'm making the wrong choices. He was miserable. He was sleeping more than he wasn't. He like hated to be awake. He was lethargic. But one doctor listened to me, and I said, I think he has low blood sugar. And now we're treating his blood sugar with hydrocortisone, which, like, the adverse effect of it is to raise your blood sugar. And that changed our whole entire life last year. Zayn went from lethargic and sleeping 20 hours a day to full of life, awake, using an eye gaze communicator, crawling around, sitting up, like, just full of life, laughing at everything, smiling at everybody, loving life. So that like changed our whole life, because she said, the endocrinologist said, I've never used hydrocortisone for anything other than like, trying to treat things, but now we're using it off brand because it saved his life, because it brought him back to life. Like, I think we were thinking about hospice before this, and now he has a life. He is so happy. This summer we got to go to Sesame Place and went to North Conway, up to like different theme parks. He loves rides, so he's like a little daredevil, and he's just so full of life. Yeah. Our life is really good right now.
Good.
Yeah.
I hope it continues.
You deserve it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I would be interested if you could talk a little bit about, like, it sounded like you were just in pure survival mode. Like, I don't know how you would do anything else. Were you able to connect with other moms or people that had walked similar shoes to you for like support? Was that just not in the question with everything you were doing?
Yeah, in the beginning I tried to like see a therapist and try to get like support from that for me for mental health, because everyone kept saying that, but then it kind of like fell off because I was in the hospital. I couldn't see them in person. And then it was just really hard to connect in 2020, because everyone was like, if you get sick, you can't see your kid and you can't be near them. And so there was one mom that I met in the lunchroom, and we ended up just every day, we didn't even have to talk. We just eat together. Her daughter ended up passing away, and I never like saw her again, but like we stayed Facebook friends, and here and there she'll kind of reach out to me. And then another time, like when we were in the ACCU, I ended up meeting two of my really close friends to this day, Steph and Nick, and they had their son Polly, who's a month younger than Zayn, and they both had the same heart condition. So it was like really cool to be like, and I kind of like, I feel like they taught me stuff, I taught them how to advocate, and like we just ended up getting really close. And they lived all the way in I think they're in South Carolina, or maybe closer, way down. But we ended up just really clicking and just having that like connection between our boys, and they became like little best friends. Every time I was in the hospital, they were in the hospital, so we have like pictures of them at Halloween and just different things. And it was like really special. But I think my thing ended up after meeting Steph and Nick, their son actually passed away waiting for a transplant. And I was there with them when he passed away. They asked me to be there. And I think it hit really, really close to home for me. That was our same journey, and we were in the hospital for the strokes. We were there for the year. And I just was like, this is my life. This is what it's going to happen. I'm watching it. And it was like very devastating to me. Like, this is it. And so after that, I was like, I really don't want to talk to people anymore. In the hospital, I was like, I have to shut myself down because it was like killing me to meet people and lose people like we were. And so I kind of didn't really talk to people for like a year. Yeah. And when we were in last year for Zayn's hypoglycemia, one mom came up to me because I was literally making it like a point to not like introduce myself to people when we would walk the halls. I would just keep to myself because I was heartbroken. Mm-hmm. And a mom, her name is Kelly, she came up to me and she was like, I heard we should be friends. And I was like, oh yeah. And her little daughter Demi ended up like loving Zayn, and he loved her, and he was so gentle with her, and she had like some rare syndrome. And so that was like when I like started becoming friends with her. And like to this day, I'm just so grateful that she was brought into my life. And again, like what I was most feared of, she did end up passing away as well from complications of a bone marrow transplant. But it's stuff like that. It's like so hard because you find these people, you love them with your whole entire heart, and they're your support system, and then you lose them. And I think it's really hard for me in the hospital because we frequent there. We don't have an end game, when we meet people, they're waiting for a transplant, they're waiting for this surgery, they're waiting for, because like I said, we're secluded in the heart world. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really hard for me to keep making friends because we keep losing them. And that's been really, really devastating. But like in social media world, like I feel like it's the same thing. You try to meet other heart moms, you try to meet other medical mamas, and you want to be there for them. And then you see their loss and you feel it just as deeply as them, because you're like losing people that you loved. You love their kids just like they do. And I feel like that's been a very challenging part about being like a medical mom.
Yeah, it's some heavy stuff. I mean, it's really, really difficult, especially with your son's diagnosis and, being in the same like care system with others going through something similar. And I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope that you are able to get some support that you need, and just to help keep you strong and being able to show up each and every day in your life for like your whole family,
Yeah. No, my family, our support, we have 2 amazing nurses. My mom's amazing. Like, I think it's like different because you need both support. I think you need the medical family, mom, dads, you need that support because they know what you're going through. And then you need the home support because they don't know what you're going through, but they try to sympathize. They try to be there for you. So I think that both are very important for you to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed. Yeah. Cool. Is there any lasting words that you want to leave with our listeners?
Just fight for them. You're their voice. Some kids like Zayn are nonverbal, so I feel like it's one of those things like if I don't speak for him, nobody will. And I think that it's just really important to just keep advocating and keep telling their stories and, just loving them through it all.
Yes, I agree and support that wholeheartedly. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that story. I don't know how you can share it so comfortably and confidently.
Too many tears have been cried.
You are so beyond strong. It was great hearing that story, and we appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. And we'll keep you in the loop about when your story airs and all of that good stuff too.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we will chat later.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye.
Susie, thank you again for your honesty, for showing us what courage looks like when it's quiet, consistent, and unconditional. If this conversation moved you, please share it with a parent who needs to know they're not alone. You can follow Susie on Instagram at Susie_Zayn_HLHS for updates and community. And remember, you were born for this.